We all know Wildermyth is the greatest video game of all time, so let's skip the intro. This time around, we're greeted with a new set of heroes, Mr. Clean, Zelda, and Shaggy, who find their village overrun by skeletons wearing Microsoft products. The group fought and won, but not before deploying some elite tactical maneuvers, running away. But can a ragtag group like this really stand against these monstrosities? It was Shaggy's idea to pursue adventuring, but the others didn't need any convincing, and so Mystery Incorporated was founded. And with the founding of this company came an old friend. Subscribe joined the party. Subscribe is a local legend whose incredible tales are told locally. Enough with the introductions though, because this was our first true encounter. A better look at what we're up against after the initial fight in the village. Oh, and Mr. Clean gets a fire axe right away, which he names the Magic Eraser. And no, I don't mean an axe used by firefighters. I mean an axe which causes fires, but I understand the confusion. Honestly, this luck is absolutely absurd. I genuinely couldn't ask for a better start than this. The fight went smoothly and we walked away with a much stronger weapon for our warrior. Zelda bonded with Subscribe over their shared archery prowess. They actually bonded maybe a bit too much, so much so that it makes them feel particularly potent before the next fight. Clearly our lovebirds got a bit too distracted though, as in the very next fight they allow their ally Mr. Clean to nearly be one-shot. But everyone made it out, and Shaggy found a seed, which he planted in the hillside. Shaggy also made a discovery at the next location, a very big egg, which curiously had a little 30% on it. 30% what? I could not tell you, but I would do everything in my power to find out. This is when I realized that it wasn't the 30% that I should be worried about, but rather the remaining 70%, which I believe was the chance of a big bird returning and finding the party stealing their big egg, which is what happened. Thankfully, the party got away, egg in tow, just for Shaggy to cook the egg. Are you kidding? Oh. Wait, never mind, he was joking. The egg lives for now. After just one more battle, we were left with only one remaining unscouted location. The location of what is assumed to be where the spooky, scary skeletons are coming from, I think. I don't really remember. Oh wait, actually, my bad. 5 steps away from reaching our final destination, Zelda comes down with an incurable and deadly disease that actually turns out to be curable after all. We just have to travel to the entire other side of the map while Shaggy scouts the final area alone. Probably not a good idea. When we got to the cure, we found it was abandoned with a crystal, assumedly the cure. I was presented here with a difficult choice: to save Zelda from their imminent death or to revive the brother of the woman that brought us here. I agonized over this choice for hours, thinking over all of the possibilities, whether we could keep Zelda alive and for how long, is what I would say if it were true. In reality, I immediately used the cure to save my own party member rather than the stone guy I just met. Shortly after taking in the Shungite magic, some gobblers showed up. Yes, they're called gobblers. We took them down pretty quickly and Mr. Clean got a 6 set of armor. Right when we were getting back on track to finish our main objective, something happened. Leaving Shaggy alone came back to bite me. Just as the party was reconvening to help him scout, he was ambushed. He didn't stand a chance. There were only 2 enemies, but the man was all alone, and he wasn't really a fighter. He survived the encounter, but lost a leg in the process. This was obviously my own fault. I should not have left him to scout alone. He should have been resting safely till the others got back, but I am an impatient man. But even more than just the leg, something else changed in Shaggy. Something that wasn't physical, maybe even something that wasn't mental, something deeper. While Shaggy recovered, the rest of the team moved forward to finish the job. They cleared the area out and set up camp, awaiting Shaggy's return before the big fight. This didn't take long and Shaggy was back in no time, though missing a leg and almost definitely in need of some therapy. The fight was not one-sided at all. Nobody went down, but we had way too many close calls for me to be comfortable with. Mr. Clean, our warrior, was again forced to take a back seat after a devastating attack early into the fight, but we made it out, saved and befriended the forger, and got 10 years of peace for our trouble. Not too shabby. During these years of calm, a few things happened, mostly to Shaggy. Shaggy's seed turned into a little pinecone guy, his egg hatched into a big bird guy, and Shaggy himself saw changes as well, to the point of being nearly unrecognizable, his power unknown and terrifying. As it turns out, what we thought was the source before wasn't actually the source, or at least not the only source. There are multiple sources, and we found found another one. That's our new target. But we can't just rush in there because that would be too easy. So we need to clear out the entire landmass again. Something I would have done anyway, but I resent being told I have to do. Putting aside my gripes though, I look towards the future, and Zelda reveals that there's a death curse on their head. What the hell is wrong with you? Terminally ill and cursed to die? Are you kidding me? You couldn't have brought this up sooner? It's been over 10 years. We're dealing with a world-ending catastrophe. The least I could ask for is a little transparency. Zelda informed Mr. Clean and they agreed to search for another cave stone that'll supposedly lift the curse. But not only that, there's another man statue, this time of some hero that saved the world before us. So naturally we dug up his bones for the magic stone, and the statue got really mad at us, and now we're fighting a ghost. Great. We get back to the weird hermit that told us to find the stone. He betrays us, the house explodes, and he reveals himself to be the Vulture Lord. Turns out he was the evil warlock that cursed Zelda in the first place. The Vulture Lord escapes, but I think the curse has been lifted. Back on track. Our first stop in this new quest was a peaceful village where, goddammit, Shaggy went down in another fight. Thankfully he survived, again, but lost an arm in the process, having it replaced with this monstrous purple one similar to his leg. This was followed by perhaps the most terrifying encounter I've ever had in this game, an encounter that left Subscribe without the crossbow he's had since the beginning, Zelda's face permanently scarred, and Mr. Clean down in arms. Shaggy was all that was left, with a veritable army of these monsters clawing after him. These were impossible odds. I mean, do I need to reiterate how many times he's gone down up to this point? Sure, he has good damage output, but if he gets surrounded, he's absolutely done for. So he didn't get surrounded. Against all odds, Shaggy outmaneuvered the enemies and single-handedly finished the rest of them off. I couldn't believe it. I thought the run was dead right then and there, but he did it. He proved that he wasn't weak and that he belonged on this team. But even so, one thing was painfully clear. As a team, we needed to be stronger. Better gear, better skills, better pizza, Papa John's.
The truth's gonna come out and nothing sells like the truth.
Wait, no, that's not right. A new member, this fire chicken that Zelda found. Wait, no, that's not it either. This script is a mess. We needed a Hulk, a She-Hulk. The party managed to clear out the remaining regions without further issue, growing stronger in the process and eventually heading into what would be the final fight of this chapter. We were given a new, very powerful weapon, one that only made sense to give to She-Hulk, and overall this fight just went much smoother than I could have possibly asked for. The end result being 11 more years of peace. During this time, Subscribe and Zelda had a kid, Flanon, but believe it or not though, 11 years of peace did eventually come to an end, and we were left with yet another zombie robot outbreak. New chapter, new goal. Wonder what they'll have us do next. Oh. Clear the region. Couldn't have come up with something slightly more original? Our first move was to recruit yet another member, this time bringing back another friend from a previous campaign, Deku, my hero. By this point, we've got too many members to travel as just one party, so from now on, just assume that Deku and Flanon are off having their own silly adventures together unless I say otherwise. It wasn't until we were close to finish clearing the land that our end objective became clear. A bright light shimmered in the distance, and so we approached it. After taking ample time to bully the remaining enemies and steal their stuff. When we got to our destination, we found our old forger friend's home flooded with bad guys. We were completely swarmed by enemies in yet another situation that felt absolutely hopeless. She-Hulk fell. Subscribe fell. Mr. Clean fell. It was left to Shaggy and Zelda to clean up, and they did. I'd be lying if I said the damage done during this fight wasn't a massive setback. It had me genuinely concerned about what was to come. All of this for 10 more years of peace. But finally, a break in the madness, as we're given a task that actually makes sense. This time we're bringing the fight to the Morthagi, who up to this point I don't even think I've said the name of, just sort of vaguely referenced with silly descriptors. The end was seemingly in sight and victory was that much closer. But this is also a 5-chapter campaign and we're on chapter 4. Our recruit to start off this chapter was Slenderman, who we trained as a hunter. Having this new member allowed us to more effectively clear objectives 2 at a time, which was going to be necessary because look at this map. I did what I could to make sure that when we battled we had at least 5 members, but even so in the very first fight we had some trouble. She-Hulk was overwhelmed, as was Subscribe. Deku found a cool flute. Zelda nearly died trying to save a book from some falling rocks. At this point, I basically decided to retire Zelda. They were still a great damage dealer, but I knew they were nearing retirement age, and I needed to train up some of my newer recruits. Speaking of which, it's actually a good time to point out that multiple members of the team were actually nearing retirement age, meaning that as soon as the next chapter, we could be down multiple members, which is a very scary thought. If I wanted any chance at making it through the final chapter, I would absolutely need my weakest link to be as strong as they possibly can. We find some weird lady that was trapped in stone, but offers to join us? Sure. But in a devastating twist that not even I could see coming, in the very same fight we recruited Artemis, we lost someone. Someone who had cheated death one too many times. Finally had it catch up to him. Subscribe was gone. He wasn't injured, he was gone. Sure, it was unlikely he would have participated in the final fight anyway, with his retirement age rapidly approaching, but how could I have possibly foreseen this? The first death of the campaign, and it's the only remaining survivor from the previous one? He shared some final words with Shaggy, urging him to carry on, and with that, he was gone. There were no other losses in the fight, thankfully. Shaggy made sure to get the final shot before carrying on. We decided to build a tomb to commemorate him. It was the least we could do after he gave us so much. Just like the least you could do right now is to subscribe. It's because he gave us so much that we've gotten this far, and why we're going to make it even further. No matter how many legions of spooky boys we have to face, there was a massive incursion battle leading into the final fight of the chapter. It was by far the most heroes I've seen in one fight. She-Hulk died. Are you kidding me? 2 deaths and we're not even in the final chapter. She had the super strong axe that specifically was strong against the baddies. I'm going to lose my mind. We catch up with our now robotic forger friend, and I'm gonna be real with you here. We died. I didn't realize one of these not particularly strong robots dying in battle was a loss condition, and I had carved in stone on, which if you don't know is essentially Iron Man mode, which means everything going forward is footage from after I replayed the entire campaign up to this point. I obviously didn't want to spend another 10-20 minutes or whatever talking about just replaying the same stuff, but yeah, if you notice any inconsistencies, that's why. Anyways, after another 6 or so hours, I finally make it back to the point in the story I was at and get past the most annoying encounter in video game history. The other story robot fainted this time, but I guess he wasn't as important as his friend. As soon as we reach our goal, a game-changing decision was sprung on me. There's a magical bone throne that can merge with your soul, giving whoever does so power over the Morthagi. Or maybe not all of them, but like some of them. But ultimately, it would give us an incredible advantage in future fights. The catch? It's permanent. We'll need to sacrifice one of our own, putting their soul in command, but never again being able to fight alongside them in battle. My options were Slenderman, Deku, or Shaggy, with a 4th option to sacrifice no one and continue the fight as we are. But after the struggle I've been through, I knew that wasn't really an option. See you later, Slendy. I'll admit I wasn't particularly excited to get rid of any members. Slenderman was an excellent damage dealer. Shaggy is an all-around demigod, probably actively seeking godhood actually. And Deku was, well, I mean, he's got potential. Though I was unsure of my decision, I'll admit it felt pretty good to have a few more bodies to throw at whatever was behind the next door. It paid off almost immediately as we cornered the boss and dealt with it swiftly. The bots didn't do much, but they worked as great meat shields. Heading into the final chapter, I'll admit, I can't help but feel like maybe I did make the wrong decision. Slenderman was our strongest remaining archer, which means we're going to be training a new one from scratch now. Meet Zelda. No, not the Zelda from earlier. They retired. Meet Princess Zelda. Mr. Clean, who doesn't have hands anymore, by the way, don't ask, tries to siphon her life force as soon as she joins, which is just plain evil, but I'll allow it. Sure, why not? Anyway, I was feeling pretty good. The majority of the party was decently leveled, aside from Zelda, who was new anyway. I really only cleared out a few tiles before beelining to the boss. I know this has burned me in the past, but trust me, I wouldn't be taking this kind of risk if I didn't think we could handle it. Also, with this being the final fight, I knew that I no longer needed to balance for future fights, which was a huge weight off of my shoulders. We made some final gear preparations and began the encounter. none of which was recorded because the game crashed and I forgot to start recording again. Haha, nice. Thankfully, I noticed early into the final battle, so you didn't miss too much, hopefully. Slenderman's personal army greeted us at the entrance to the final boss, helping to clear out some of the guards. Getting to the door was pretty easy. What was behind the door, on the other hand, you don't need all this. Morthagi will keep coming? Why? The fight mostly revolved around trying to deal as much damage as possible to these 3 cores while also balancing an ever-flowing horde of monsters. Also, the cores have these annoying little nurses that are constantly being spawned to heal them up. We managed to take down the big center core first, which was huge, and then the core to the right, but Deku went down. Not dead, but completely out of the fight. We were whittling down the final core, but several of our own were hanging on by a thread. The core was so close to dying, but these stupid nurses kept bringing it back up, and then tragedy struck. Mr. Clean, a founding member of this whole operation, was snuffed out. That's the thing with this game. One wrong move and you could lose someone permanently. Hell, sometimes you don't even have to make a wrong move, it just happens. The worst part is, if he had just lived 1 turn longer, he would have seen victory. Did he die thinking that all of this was for nothing? Probably not. It was basically over when he died, but still. So yeah, what a journey. One that definitely did not shorten my lifespan by another few years. Subscribe for the next one. In honor of subscribe, God rest his soul.